you for joining us for this episode of Inside Town Hall. I'm your host, Madeline Shields. The city of Sioux Falls has many priorities that it likes to accomplish each year, and today we are speaking with City Councilor Teresa Staley, and we're going to visit with her about what some of her priorities are for the city of Sioux Falls and what she would like to be seen done right away. Welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Madeline. And let me just say to the citizens that this is my one time. All of us on the council get one segment a year. So that's why it's very important that I'm able to just state some of the things I'm working for the citizens and my hopes and dreams for the people of our community.
Okay, well, great. Well, let's start off. One of the items that you have on your list is called Project Trim. And let's talk a little bit about what is Project Trim for folks who might not know about what it is.
And Project Trim has been happening in our community since 2005. Before that, the city would take care of its own trees in the boulevard. And I have had it come through my neighborhood 3 times, and I know it's been throughout our community. And what Project Trim does is it goes out and it surveys the trees. The city surveys the trees to look for violations on the boulevard. These are trees owned by the city, and then they send out a letter, and then it's up to the homeowner to either trim those trees themselves or to hire an arborist to do it. And the cost of that is usually a minimum of $150. And that doesn't matter if it's just a small branch or a huge spray of branches. It can be a huge cost and a hardship for the homeowners, especially those on fixed incomes and the people who have a physical disability or they're elderly. So I have been trying, since I've been on the council, and before that even as a citizen, to get the city to change that philosophy and to start trimming the trees as a service to the citizens. That would be the same kind of service that we have, like snow removal, fixing the street lights, and cleaning our streets, a taxpayer service. There are communities in our state and in North Dakota who are already doing this. Aberdeen has a fabulous forestry department. They take care of that as part of the taxpayers' investment in the city. Brookings does it, and that's where John Ball lives. He is the premier arborist advisor.
He works for the South Dakota State Extension
Office. Yes, and he's been in front of the council talking about the ash borer situation, and he acknowledged that in Brookings, the city trims the trees. They don't put any added cost onto the homeowner. Aberdeen, as I mentioned, Fargo does it. Even our little sister city, Brandon, takes care of this for the citizens. So I've been saying it, and I'm grateful that during our budget time, we passed I believe it's $50,000 amendment where the Parks Department is going to put aside $50,000 as a pocket of money that will help people who are on fixed incomes or people who are in a hardship situation. So if you can't cover that cost, they will. You can apply for this. And I'll never forget when Project Trim came through our neighborhood one year. My neighbor Sheila had lost her job. And you know how that, maybe you don't, but I'm sure it's very scary when you're making a house payment and you don't have any income coming in. Project Trim comes through. She gets this intimidating letter. She frantically gets this arborist company to do it, and they charged her $300. And they scalped her tree. You know, it really puts the homeowner in a vulnerable position. So this $50,000 pot of money that we're going to have for helping them may be a help right now. But my goal would be to say to the city, let's take this responsibility on. We're going to be looking at spending $7 to $10 million in River Greenway improvements in the next year. Okay, $7 to $10 million for that aesthetic element, which is good. I'm not saying we haven't beautified our River Greenway, but spending a little money to help the average homeowner, the taxpayer, I think is a good thing. So because I've continually brought this up, I think they're getting tired of hearing me ask for it. The city agreed. Our Parks Director, Don Kearney, said, hey, Teresa, we're going to do a test program to see what the actual cost would be. They're doing it right now, or should I preface that by, through October, November. And it's good. It's in the Hilltop area, so they're doing free tree trimming. And whatever that money comes back as the cost of it, I'm going to say, you know what? If it's too much, let's bring on the inmate help. The inmate initiative that I proposed before the mayor got elected. I met with him and I said, Paul, let's get some inmate help to pick up the slack on Project Trim is what I wanted. So I know that the mayor has been using inmate workforce on all sorts of things. He hasn't quite used it for Project Trim yet. I'm hoping that he'll listen to me speaking now, Mayor Paul, and that we'll start putting some energy into that.
I have a question just to let people know where Hilltop is. That is in eastern Sioux Falls, 15th and 16th Streets between Bonson Avenue and Thompson Avenue. And now, do people have to apply for this money that is in that $50,000? How would you dole out that money?
The park department agreed that they're going to make a flyer that will go with the letter that's sent out that's going to say, if you have a hardship, you can call this number and find out the steps to apply for some assistance.
And then my other question is do we know how much it costs annually to trim these trees? And is the city doing the labor, or is it outside arborists doing these tree trimming?
It's the outside arborist. The only time the city steps in is when someone hasn't done it to the standards they want. And then the city steps in and does it at a minimum cost of $150.
Okay.
So,
okay.
Right.
So we have lots of other things that we're talking about today, and the next on your list is called Sing Sioux Falls. What is Sing Sioux Falls?
Or Sioux Falls Sings.
Sioux Falls Sings. I have it backwards.
And as people, citizens need to understand that as we're part-time on the council, we have other jobs. I'm a piano teacher. I teach voice at USF. I direct a church choir, and that's how I support myself. Some of the council members are insurance salesmen, some are real estate people. I mean, it's a very part-time position. We make about $20,000 a year with no benefits. And I tell you, I've been working close to full-time to help do my job for the citizens. So anyway, I'm a very committed person to singing. And I had this idea some time ago to have a community get-together where we all sing. And I've met with the head of the symphony. I've talked with the community band director. In all those venues, we have to pay to have an involvement with them. I talked with the Levitt in the park department to bring this together. And again, it was kind of late in the game, and there's a fee involved. So I went to USF, and they agreed to host this. It's going to be on Sunday, November 10th, and I know that date may be passed when this broadcast for some people, but I'm hoping that it becomes an annual event. I have John Mogan with Mogan's Heroes coming in. I've got the Singing Legionnaires coming in, and we have the USF Chamber Orchestra. And we are going to bring together people on a Sunday afternoon, and we're going to sing. We're going to sing folk songs. We're going to sing oldies. We're going to sing hymns. We're going to sing patriotic songs. And I'm just hoping that this is going to be well attended. And again, singing together is a fabulous thing. My choir, when we sing with full voice. And I think everyone should sing.
Right.
God gave us a voice, use it.
And I think many people are familiar with Mogan's Heroes. John Mogan has been a long time music educator in the Sioux Falls School District. He was actually my choral teacher in Lenox when I was a little
really?
kid. Oh yeah, way back from 5th grade all the way through. So
oh my
gosh,
yeah,
he's been around, and I think he was up in Waubay. But
yes,
Alan Stenga, who was the choir director at Lincoln High School for many years, and then at Roosevelt, he is the director of the Singing Legionnaires. So all of the students who may have had Alan Stenga, go see them, because he would love to see his former students.
Yes, so I'm excited. And the USF has been, they printed the posters, they're hosting the location, so it's going to be exciting. So Sioux Falls Sings.
And is it free, or is
it's
there?
Free, it's free.
Okay.
So it's a Sunday, November 10th. Call me, email me if you need details. Okay, the next thing, Neighborhood Summit.
Okay.
And this was held back in October. We have not done a neighborhood summit since 2015. before this. Mike Huther, our former mayor, was big into this event. And I give him credit for really pouring energy into the association program in our community. I've been trying to really pump up the neighborhood watch venue as well. So the summit was held because Councilor Janet Brecky and I approached Mayor Paul Tenhagen and said, hey, could we bring this back? And I even volunteered to pay for part of it out of my own pocket because I wanted this to happen. And Paul Tenhagen hadn't been aware of this. So he graciously said, you know, the city will provide the venue, and we had it. We had about 90 people sign up for it. It was a fabulous encounter.
When was this?
This was back, I think it was on October 8th.
Okay.
It was a Saturday in October.
Do you anticipate doing another neighborhood summit?
Probably in a year.
Okay.
And if I'm still on the council, of course, citizens, we got an election coming up in April, so we still don't know who's actually running and so if I would be on the council, I would certainly be pushing for this. But I hope that there's a legacy within the administration of our mayor who would also say, yeah, this is an important thing. People got to come in and they got to ask questions to the council members who attended. They were able to talk to city staff about different issues. And you know, it's really the vitality and the heartbeat of our town is about how we're communicating to our people. We've got to be listening to them. It's their investment in this whole governmental entity. So this was a fabulous experience.
What do you hear from the citizens when they are able to get one-on-one or even with a group of city councilors together? What are some of the questions that you hear? What are people interested in? What are they concerned about?
Well, a big issue would be safety. They want to know, you know, how our plan for making sure that our neighborhoods are going to be safe, especially when we're having seems like an increased level of shootings and perhaps gang activity. Those are really, and then a lot of it has to do with, at least at this summit event, is how code enforcement with properties that have become dilapidated. Mm-hmm. People are concerned with keeping their neighborhoods, you know, attractive.
Do you still encourage people to get to know their neighbors? If somebody's
Amen.
Lawn isn't mowed for a while, or their sidewalks aren't scooped, do you encourage people to say, you know what, go over and talk to your neighbors, see if they need help, see if there's a problem?
Amen. Yeah. Well, you're leading us right into the Scoop It program as well. But yes, I think we have to have a kindness towards our neighbors. And in Sioux Falls, especially when we have these huge embankments of apartments going up, it's a changing city, and we need to be cognitively making efforts to get connected to people. I'm just amazed that people in our town don't know what the heck's going on with our city government. A lot of people don't get the paper anymore. They get like this much from maybe the nightly news. They're totally misinformed. So part of my mission is to reach out and engage with those people I do mailings. I've spent, let me just say, almost $20,000 of my own money sending mailings to people since I've been elected. That's come out of my city council salary. I mean, that I've given up of my personal funds. I'm not making any money on this deal. But in a sense, that makes me a more effective counselor because I have no ties to anyone. You know, I'm doing this only to help the people.
Do you feel like it's part of the citizens' responsibility to also educate themselves, to find out what's going on, and how do you get people to be more engaged?
Well, if you want to say you have to educate yourself, then do you say, well, you're going to have to pay $60 to $100 a month to get the paper?
No, because or if they can come to a city council meeting, they could watch online or.
And if you have cable. Not everyone has cable.
They can go to the library and look on the internet. You know,
right, to take that,
yes. How do you get people to want to be engaged and know where their tax dollars are going?
Well, that's why I reach out to them. I go to the Benson Flea Market. I'm always I go to service groups. I just was at a school. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Met with some classes. I do believe people want to be informed, but they're very busy. I mean, people are so busy, they're trying to make a living. So they're hoping that everything is working with their city government. They're kind of on cruise control with that. And what we found within our city council, experience is that we hear from people when there's a problem. When we have a mammoth apartment building going in somebody's backyard, then we hear from people. When there's some drainage coming in and flooding your basement from a concrete parking lot, then we hear from people. So it seems to be driven by crisis sometimes. But and again, even people who have an issue sitting in a council meeting can be difficult. Madeline, I have encouraged people to come to public input like you would not believe. And they're somewhat intimidated. Even men. I mean, I'm amazed that people are hesitant to come in and talk to us. I think they feel like they're coming into some kind of a regal, majestic area. You know, we're sitting up there. We look like we're kind of aloof from people. We're all... there's all these barriers to get to us. We've got gates and all sorts of stuff at the council. So I keep saying to people, this is your place. This is the people's place. Come on in. Let's make them feel welcome there.
And we have lots more to talk about.
Okay.
We're going to take a quick break.
All right.
And when we get back, we're going to talk more about the Scoop It project. And we have lots of other things that we are with Teresa Staley, and she's going to tell us more about what some of her initiatives are. We'll be back in just a moment.
Hi, this is Dr. Barrett with Falls Community Health and want to take just a few moments with the upcoming flu season to talk more about influenza. So the big things that we see in clinic with influenza are typically going to be fevers, chills, sore throat, cough, chest congestion, body aches, headaches. Our patients that are at the highest risk of complications with influenza are going to be your elderly patients over 65, children less than 5, patients that are pregnant or expecting, as well as anyone with immune deficiencies. So the best way to protect yourself from influenza is to get vaccinated. We recommend that in anyone over 6 months of age. Now to get your vaccination lined up, I would contact your local pharmacy, provider, or the folks at Falls Community Health and then get that lined up today.
Well, welcome back to Inside Town Hall, where we are visiting with City Councilor Teresa Staley, and she has a lot of initiatives that she would like to discuss and what are some of her priorities for the city of Sioux Falls. Let's move on. We've heard about some of them, but let's talk about the Scoop It inmate initiative.
Well, I reached out to the warden of our penitentiaries 2 years ago when we discontinued the Scoop It program. And what the Scoop It program was, it was for people who were disabled, low income, could apply for this, and the inmates within the penitentiary would get in a van and they would go to different residences and just scoop the driveways and sidewalks. It worked very, very efficiently. And then we saw in the paper, in the media, that was discontinued. So I went to the warden to find out why, and during that time it was fascinating. He was telling me all of these different things that the inmates could be utilized for. And this is a good thing. It's a win-win thing because inmates are getting a purpose, they're getting some experience, they're getting out, and the city could be benefiting from this. So I met with our mayor, Paul Tenhagen, before he was elected and pitched this to him, and he was very receptive, and now he has been utilizing inmate workforce. So what I'd like to do, and I have a request into his office that we utilize this for the Scoop It program and bring that back so that people will have some assistance, and it won't break the bank to do that for them.
And there's a reminder that when it does snow, you have how much time? Is it 24, 48
I think it's
hours?
a little, yeah, it might be 48
to
hours.
scoop your sidewalks. And remember, there are people out there who have no transportation, so they're walking, they're in wheelchairs, and
That's right.
there's a barrier of snow for many people. Okay, we're going to move on to municipal discussions and schools, and you have highlighted North Middle School.
And I was at North Middle School in October talking with their seventh grade, several of their seventh grade classes on city government. And what their teacher had done, Matthew Baumgardner, is he had them...
Which is North Middle School?
North in Harrisburg.
Harrisburg North.
Yes,
okay.
And it's interesting, it's in Harrisburg, but apparently like 96% of the kids live in Sioux Falls.
Well, it's Harrisburg School District, but it's in the city of Sioux Falls.
Yes.
Because their school district crosses city lines.
Right, so it was Sioux Falls children. And they had reached out to some of us on the council with great ideas about what they would like to see done. The swimming pool, they want one on the south side of town. They talked about having homeless people get employment through the city. They talked about basketball courts. They talked about vaping in the parks. They had all sorts of things that they wanted us to address. And as I always do, if I get contacted by a constituent, I call them. I try to talk with them on the phone if I need more information. And so instead of calling each of these seventh graders, I went in and talked to their class. And it was great. We talked about city government, how ordinances are created when we meet, and I invited all these children into our city council meeting. So Madeline, like what we talked about earlier, getting these young people involved. And I think we need to do more government education in the schools. I talk to my piano students sometimes about what's happening with our city municipalities. They don't have a clue. And so I'm happy to go into the school systems and talk. I'm sure my colleagues would like to too, but that would be a great initiative to try to implement, where we're actually engaging with these young people and getting them interested in activism. One thing I tell people all the time, I led 2 petition drives in our community. The last one was the snow gates. That I never had a city councilor do it for me. As a citizen, I had to take the initiative, and we need citizens to step forward and to work with us. It's our government. It belongs to everyone. So I'm trying to create little activists wherever I go to say, pay attention, your voice does matter, and you can fight City Hall, so to speak.
Okay. And you have mixed-use parking ramp on your list.
Just a quick word about our mixed-use parking ramp. I'm hearing from people, we see that ramp there, it's unfinished. I know there's litigational things floating around. I wanted to show this because back 2 years ago, I sent this postcard. This is blown up, but I sent a postcard out at my own expense before we voted to go forward with this thing, telling the citizens about my concerns and asking them to contact their council members to vote against this, to put the brakes on it and vet it out. Unfortunately, and Councilor Pat Starr and I both had concerns about this. Our colleagues voted to go forward with it, and we ended up in a big mess right now. So I just want the citizens to know that I believe we have to be cognizant of where we've been to make sure that we don't repeat these things in the future. And I really think that we need to vet this whole parking system out. I'd like to have an independent audit done to ensure the citizens that everything is as it should be. We have a very healthy, viable parking system, because there's still some questions in the air, Madeline. So I just wanted to say that. Of course, we want to make sure that ramp is going to be utilized, but it really, the whole thing went in a very bad direction. And that's why I tend to be conservative when it comes to going forth in projects. I don't like to ramrod things, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And by the way, if you look at ramrod in the dictionary, it can mean I'm talking about a sense of just pushing things through very quickly.
Okay. You have on your list also communication. What would you like to see done
And I want
differently?
to let the citizens know, as far as communication, we need to be communicating with the administration in ways that help us communicate with citizens. The mayor, our mayor Paul Tenhagen, came on board, and I don't think the public's aware of this, but he hired 2 facilitators. He's got a deputy chief, who's TJ Nelson, and he has a chief of staff, Erica Beck. Now, Mayor Huther had Heather Hitterdahl as his communication person. But with Mayor Huther, he was more of a hands-on guy. You knew you were dealing with Mayor Huther. Paul Tenhagen has had a little more of a sense of, I think he likes to designate situations and concerns to these 2 chief of staffs. But sometimes, recently we had an issue with changing the meeting time from 7 o'clock to 6 o'clock. And we got all sorts of different pieces of information from all these different entities within his administration, and we're still asking for clarification. So I've been saying this since Paul Tenhagen came on board, is that we need to be very clear about what's happening so that we can communicate that to our citizens. And we all need to be communicating with each other. I personally like to deal with him personally versus, going through another person. There's that game of telephone where you whisper in one person's ear and then you keep whispering, and then pretty soon the message gets kind of distorted and changed. So let's just get right to the point and make sure that we're all getting the same information.
Okay. I'm going to jump forward to, you have city council meeting time and public input. Did that have something to do with the communications that
It
you were
absolutely
talking about?
did, yes. Yes. So we were told that they were thinking of changing the meeting time from 7 o'clock, which has been a very effective time, to 6 o'clock. And one of the two rationales given were that, first of all, the media wanted it changed so they could get done earlier. And secondly, that the staff members would like it changed so they could go home and be with their families. And I would say to that the citizens I talk with say 7 o'clock is a great time for people working to get home, have something to eat, and come down to the council meeting at 7. We shouldn't be making decisions based on convenience for employees, not that we don't respect them, but many of the employees who come to these council meetings are department heads, and they're making between $120,000 and $180,000 a year. Part of what their job description is coming to our meetings. So I'm sitting there till 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock. I'm not ever complaining. And so that was a situation that we got mixed messages as to how we're going forward. Are they going forward? I'm thinking it's over. I think it's not going to happen. I don't know. But I also, the public input part, keeping a meeting at a good time for the citizens, and then making sure we protect public input. And when I ran in 2016, one of the things I said was I was going to work to protect public input. And when there was a move 2 years ago to change public input to the back of the meeting, I sent out a postcard to the citizens at that time. And I rallied the troops to come in and defend your right to be at the beginning of the meeting when you've always been able to give your input. And I think we saved public input. And
I'm looking at the clock right now, and we are just about out of time. You have a couple of seconds left. It's upside down.
Beekeeping. So we're hoping that this month, the month of November, we will have our new beekeeping ordinance in place. We've been talking about it. We've been getting communication, and be rest assured, public, that people have to have regulations to do this. They have to follow the regulations. They have to be registered, and they have to be educated. So it's going to be a safe opportunity for our citizens to help the environment, raise a little honey, and have fun.
Okay. Well, great. Well, thank you for all of your information.
Thank you.
And thanks for being here for Inside Town Hall. And that's our time for this episode. If you would like to get a hold of Councilmember Staley, you can go to siouxfalls.org and click on the City Council. Thanks for watching.